All right. Hi.
Hi. So, I hearing everybody's stories, I know I've come to a lot of success panels and just kind of given snippets here and there. Um, One thing I wanted to add for this, 'cause originally I was just going to say about the latest thing, if you will, is just how I ended up in BizCraft initially. I went to a GYST. I was one of those scroll past on my Facebook feed and was like, oh, they seem fun. It seems fun. Even if it does nothing for me, I think I'll have a fun time. And that's worth $30, right? Um, and I had my three coaching calls with Lauren Ox, who you guys heard from at the start of the panel, and realizing like I would say all these words about how, oh, I'm not good at doing stuff, I'm not consistent. I did the homework because I knew that I was going to be sharing time with you, and you're the one who gave me the assignment, versus not doing all the homeworks that the goblins that I had assigned for myself. And she coached me through realizing that like I was considering her time more worthy than mine. And so I was doing things with this idea that like I had to like make sure I made the most of her time as if mine was not valuable. And realizing I had this huge worthiness story around it. And all of those things like I hadn't really thought about. And it was very weird because the moment I had gotten through that one session, like, and realized that like I wasn't respecting myself for thinking that I was worth it, that I wasn't putting the time into myself, I was able to be actually like empathetic, not empathetic, empathic. There you go, that's the word I'm looking for. Which I didn't realize was a thing, because I always hear people say, oh, they are or they aren't. Some people get it, some people don't. And I didn't realize that is a thing that could switch. And so after having, her bust me open as a coach, I realized when I would go to all the group coaching calls, I'm like, if I'm sitting there, if I'm present with people, I can feel other people's stuff. Now my default might be off, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, imagine you lived your life and you didn't get thirsty or you didn't get hungry. Like they're so basic. You're just like, what do you mean you don't get that sensation? I realized that like there is an entire, like when you're in touch with yourself and you're very present, you can be in touch with other people on this whole other level. So once that had happened, like that's what got me to jump into BizCraft. I was like, you know what? Like this is something I've never experienced before in my life. This is crazy. And I also just don't want to lose the support. I want to be able to help myself. So I'd gone into BizCraft. And since BizCraft, of all the things that I've learned, it's not like all of a sudden every switch turned off magically, right? As they say, you have to peel the onion, you have to keep brushing your teeth. You can't just brush it once and then have it all done. And one of the big things that happened for me recently was when I was in BizCraft. Part of the inspiration was magma. There's a lot of like huge celebration and lots of noise, and I live in a townhouse where I shared walls with people, and I was like, I want to be myself. I want to be loud. I want to be expressive, but I also want to respect my neighbors, and I don't want to have to talk to them every time I'm like planting and shouting and jumping. I want to just like and call it good. And that being the case, I was like, I need to live in a house. I need to live in a house with detached walls where I'm not sharing it with people, so I can just be who I am and not worry about the fact that I also want to be a person who's considerate of the people around me and my environment. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna rent a house. And I was really concerned because I live in an expensive area. So when you're going from a townhouse to a standalone house, the amount just goes up, right? And I was getting so nervous about it. And you had to give a 1 month notice before leaving. And I was searching for a home to rent. I, consider, okay, maybe, I am worth it. I can pay a little more. It might be a little tighter, but I'll get what I want. Right. And trying to like lean into the fact that like it'd be safe to do so. Knowing that like the fear is part of, what allows you to miss the opportunities that present themselves to you when you're trying to follow your goals. And so here I was finally deciding, okay, I'm going to rent a house. And then I got a place. It wasn't all of the best version of a house I wanted to rent, but it was a fine version in terms of it was a cost that was reasonable for what I decided I would be able to pay. It had air conditioning. It was walkable for my roommate to go ahead and get a local job. And I was like, okay, these things are good. I was like, but for some reason they want a 6-month lease. And I was like, I don't want to move again in 6 months. So is it possible for you to get a longer one? And they just like kind of flaked out. And one point I was like, it doesn't matter if it's 6 months. I'll just take it. And nothing, absolutely nothing. Me waiting so long instead of trusting. All of a sudden, like my lack of faith meant a lack of manifestation. All of a sudden I got nowhere. I chickened out. I went ahead and I re-signed for another 6 months at the same place. And I knew it. I could feel it. I was like, I didn't burn the boats. And so now I have nowhere to go. And I was like, I can't do that again. And when the 6 months came, I told my roommate, I'm like, it doesn't matter. We are moving. Like, get your brain in the right mindset. I don't know where we're moving yet, but we're definitely moving. And so as the time started rolling closer, I started again looking for rental houses. And at some point I got the niggle and I was like, am I selling myself short by choosing to rent instead of choosing to buy? And it seemed like a pretty big situation to like change your mind on. Obviously, I knew I wanted to move to a house 6 months prior to trying again to find a place. And then about 2 or 3 weeks before I had to leave, I had that niggle and I started looking on Redfin, and then I went to 1 or 2 open houses, and then like one place was like really old, and I went to another place that was around the corner, and then the following weekend there was another place that looked gorgeous. It was definitely still in a price range that seemed reasonable, and I was like, oh man, maybe I could do that one. And as soon as I got there, I felt like, what was I thinking? It's a beautiful day. Everyone's here. This thing's got like a mother-in-law suite with like a mini split. It's got, 4 bedrooms. It's got a sprinkler system in the lawn. I was like, this was somebody's going to be there forever home, right? And then they decided with COVID, they just changed their life and decided they were going to go live in a completely different country. So this was extremely well cared for. But I was walking around, there's like 30 people coming to look at this house. Pretty much every one of them had an agent, to help them buy and stuff. And so I was like, there's no way, especially with the market, because this was before the tide had turned on housing loans. I was like, there are so many people here. There's probably going to be a bidding war. I'm probably going to get nowhere close to it. But I still was like, if this worked, this would be so great. And she was really busy. She was talking to all these people. I had brought my roommate and my daughter with me. And we were just sitting around, and part of me was considering going, but my roommate was like, oh, I'm trying to keep an eye out, the moment that she's free, that way you can talk to her. And so I finally had a fuller conversation with her, and she had mentioned, oh, just putting your highest and best. And when she realized that I didn't actually properly sign anything with a buyer's agent, she said, well, this is not an unethical, I'm not trying to like become you're the seller agent and the buyer's agent. Just like, I'm not doing that. But if you were trying to just put it in on your own, because then your offer might look a little bit better with not having that percentage go toward paying an agent, I can help you walk through the stuff. Well, it was the weekend, and I had gotten a pre-approval for the previous place I looked at that was cheaper. And so I couldn't get it adjusted in time, and they'd already accepted all of the people's offers. And it literally went for like 150 over. Like there was no way that I was like, my highest and best was not even going to approach this number. So I didn't feel like I lost too much. But then she had offered that if I was interested, that she would help being my buyer agent. So at that point I had met her. She showed me places. I was talking with her. It turned out that you could tell that she had the same kind of mindset. Like it felt like she was more familiar in terms of like, when I think of the people in the volcano group, at one point I'd asked her when we were looking at places, if she had heard of Abraham Hicks, and she had, and I had mentioned to her, I don't think I was there for that house. I think I was there to meet you explicitly, because I told her like the person I was talked to very minimally, just because I automatically suggest somebody on Redfin. She was very practical. She used to write stuff for mortgage information for Wells Fargo before doing real estate, and then just everything she said was like, oh, you have to make sure about this, about that, and like, oh, it might not work. And I was just like, I could feel it, like it was like thinking and even having that thought of, am I selling myself short? Should I go for buying a home? I could just feel like it draining like my motivation. And then when I saw her and like how honest and bright she was, I was like, you are the mentality shift that I need to align with to get what I want. And I'm like, and at one point she was just showing me places to see what I liked, right? So even if something about it would be off, it would be something to get her a mindset of what am I looking for, so I could have an idea of what am I actually want in a home, what's really important to me. And one of the ones that she had showed me was where I live now. And that place was a little bit further out. It was a little bit more expensive. I was definitely concerned about the fact that of the houses I had been looking at, they were definitely cheaper by an amount. But mind you, I knew her for 4 days. For 4 days, and we had found the house that I wanted. By the end of the week, we had done the bidding to get me the home. I bid the first time, and they didn't like that I was trying to lowball it. And I was like, you know what? For whatever reason, they didn't do a house showing there. With that market, I couldn't imagine the fact that I didn't have to bid against anybody, which I thought was crazy and awesome. So I was able to buy it just at cost. So within 1 week of knowing this lady who I met at going to a showing at a home that I was like, what am I doing here? I'm never going to get it. All of a sudden, if I just following the niggle, still listening, kept going, and got myself my own home. And now that I have a home, I get to have a dog, so I don't have to worry about rentals and stuff. And it's just been really, 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 really good. And I know that like part of me was so concerned because I took a significant financial concern, right, between renting to a mortgage. And while I, tried to make sure that it was at least something that I would be doable no matter what, I got promoted. Well, in general, the little volcano is another separate portion of a success story, got me to realize that I wasn't advocating for myself at work. And part of it was the same worthiness issue, like a codependence that used to be in my relationships prior to the volcano. I'd already like noticed was a thing, but I only treated the symptom and not the root cause, which was worthiness as a whole. And so what was no longer manifesting in my relationships, it started to manifest at work. So all of a sudden I was trying to get all my validation from having my job. And when people weren't just saying that I was a good worker and promoting me, I wasn't advocating for myself because I was taking it as like a reflection of me being not worthy of getting a better job. And I had gotten a promotion from like this work, from advocating for myself, from having that, worthiness story cleared up, that like, yeah, no, I can just do this. Well, that happened a while ago. This time this last time where they were doing a round of like, if you're going to get a raise or bonuses or whatever, now's the time, is larger than that promotion I had, and has basically bridged the gap that I had between rental and mortgage. So all of this financial concern and fear that was holding me back, well, where's this going to come from? It turns out it's just going to come from my job, because the universe delivers, and I'm fine. And it's fantastic. And there's so much that I had fought myself against, moving out from the rental to the house. Even that was a huge struggle. It was very, very stressful for me. But at the end of the day, like, perhaps if I surrendered, it would have been easier, but I at least allowed myself to trust enough of the process to get where I'm at and just be taken care of. And I realized that with all of the things that I've done, most of this stuff has been in the support of the volcano, and I haven't been actively in the volcano in a minute. And that's why I, from this GYST, was like, you know what? I know the times I've made the biggest and best changes in my life has been because I've had support. I've had people help making sure that, like, I'm focused on the things I actually care about and want in my life. And so I personally have re-signed up to do CCC this time, because I had done BizCraft and I've coached. And so this is my first time to do a bit more. Yeah.
Yay, Cassie! Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. I love like the big long stories that have like so many different little connections throughout them, because when you listen to them, you're like, oh yeah, oh wow, that's cool. And when you have those experiences in life where it feels like all the stuff that you were doing was like lining you up for this moment and for this experience. So I thank you for sharing that. It's such a magical story how you got your house. And I love I loved the tour that you gave of it. It's so beautiful. And I'm so happy to have you back in CCC. It's going to be so much fun, just like having you back in the club and just serving you and supporting you in a whole different container. So we just get to play more. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, Cassie. Love you.